Life had always been a predictable loop. Alarm, office, gym, Netflix, bed, repeat. Nothing special, nothing exciting. Just me, stuck in my comfort zone. But there are moments in life when you look back and realize exactly when everything changed. And for me, that moment was when my straight roommate, Rafael, locked the bedroom door and said, "I need to practice something. Are you up for helping me?" Why the hell would a straight guy ask to practice? Practice what? And why lock the door? Let me back up a bit so you understand how we got here. Rafael moved in about 6 months ago. We met through a roommate ad. He works in sales, the type whose schedule is always packed, always on the go, always closing deals. When we first met, the impression was exactly what you'd expect. Tall guy, about 6'1", broad shoulders, dark hair, always perfectly styled, and that salesman smile that knows exactly how to disarm people. He had that natural confidence of someone who's never had a reason to doubt himself. Look, I'll be honest. From day one, something clicked in me. It wasn't obvious. It was more like this persistent feeling I just ignored. You know that electric shock when someone accidentally bumps into you? That was it. But Rafael was straight. He was always talking about girls, going out with them, occasionally bringing one home. And me? I was just the gay roommate splitting bills. That was it. Nothing else. We had an easy relationship, just buddies. We watched football on weekends, threw burgers on the grill, talked about work and life. It was that kind of guy friendship where you're totally comfortable, where you don't need to explain anything, where there's genuine respect. And it stayed that way for months. I was convinced there was nothing more to it, 100% sure. But in the last few weeks, things started to shift. Little things, almost imperceptible. I started noticing that when we were watching TV on the couch, Rafael was sitting closer to me than before. Nothing crazy, but close enough that I could feel his body heat. And then there were the looks. You know when you feel eyes on you, and when you turn around, the person looks away just a little too fast? That was it. And it was happening more and more often. I tried to ignore it. Told myself I was imagining things, that I was just lonely, that I was projecting my own desires onto a situation that didn't exist. But the tension was there. It was palpable. And I didn't know what to do with it. Then came that Thursday. Late afternoon, I'm in my room working on a design project, blasting music through my headphones, when I hear a knock. I pull them off and open the door. It's Rafael. He looks off. No automatic smile like usual. His face is serious, almost tense, and he's barely looking at me. "Hey man, can I talk to you for a sec?" His voice sounds forced casual. "Yeah, of course," I say, stepping back. My heart's already racing for some reason I can't explain. He walks in and closes the door. Wait, no, he doesn't just close it, he locks it. I hear the click, and my whole body goes rigid. Why's he locking the door? He stands there for a moment, eyes down, running his hand through his hair, clearly uncomfortable. I've never seen Rafael like this. He's always been the confident guy, the one who's got it all figured out. But right now, he looks like a nervous kid scrambling for the right words. So, what's going on, man? I ask, trying to keep it casual, but my head's spinning. Deep breath. He looks at me, then away, then back again. I gotta ask you something. And I know this is gonna sound weird, but I need your help with something. Yeah, man, go for it, I say, trying to encourage him. It's just, I got this thing at work. There's this client, she's tricky, and I need to get her attention differently. She's the kind of girl who likes to play mind games, you know? Push boundaries. And I've never really been good at that whole vibe. I'm confused. Vibe? What vibe? Rafael looks at me with this intensity that literally makes my stomach flip. Seduction. She wants to be seduced, and I've always just been direct, never had to play it cool. But with her, I do. And I thought, maybe you could help me. Practice. Silence, dead silence. I'm frozen, trying to process what he just said. Practice seduction? With me? What the hell does that even mean? Practice. How exactly? My voice comes out deeper than it should. He steps closer, then closer again. Now he's practically right in front of me. I can smell his cologne. This woody, spicy mix that always gets to me whenever we cross paths in the hallway. Like, how to get closer without making it obvious. How to build the tension. How to make someone feel wanted without even saying anything. That's what I mean. My heart's pounding so loud I'm certain he can hear it. My head's screaming danger, but my body's responding completely differently. There's this electric thing in the air between us, something that's never felt this real before. And, you really think I'm the right guy to help with this? I ask, trying to keep my shit together. You're gay. You get how this works. The whole, game. Making someone want you. He's saying it like it's the most obvious thing ever, but there's something off about it. Something strained. Something he's not telling me. I should say no. I should make some joke to cut the tension. I should come up with an excuse and get out of here. But I don't do any of that. Because honestly, I need to know what this is. I need to see where this goes. I need to know if what I'm feeling is real or if I'm just making it up. Yeah, okay. The words just come out on their own. What do you want me to do? Rafael loosens up a bit. Or pretends to. But his eyes stay intense, locked on me in this way that makes my whole body react. Just show me how you do it, if you wanted to seduce someone. This is insane. Totally insane. But I'm in too deep now to back out. I take a breath and step closer. We're practically touching. First, I say, voice low like a whisper, you gotta make them feel seen. Really seen. Not just looked at, but actually noticed. I look right into his eyes. Don't break the gaze, just hold it. He looks back. 1 second, 2, 3. His breathing gets heavier. I see it happen. Then, I continue, tilting my head a little. You break the physical distance, but slow. Don't rush it. I reach out and touch his upper arm. That's it. Light touch. Barely there. But I feel his muscle tense under my fingers. His whole body reacts. And then, I whisper, moving closer. You let the quiet do the talking. Don't say anything. Just be there. Really present. Rafael doesn't move, doesn't back away, doesn't do anything. He just stands there staring at me like he's mesmerized, and that's when it hits me. This has nothing to do with any client. This never was about that. I pull back slowly, letting my hand slide down his arm before I let go. That's basically it, I say, trying to sound like I've got it together, but my voice is shaking. He doesn't say anything. He just stands there processing. Then finally, can you do that again? I want to make sure I get it. That's when things get real. Actually real. Because right then, I know we're not pretending anymore. We're not practicing for some client. This is about us. Him. Me. Everything we've never said out loud. I take a breath and step in again. This time, my hand goes to his chest. I can feel his heart pounding through his shirt. I look at him and see something in his eyes I've never seen before. Fear. Want. Confusion. All mixed together. Rafael, I whisper barely loud enough to hear. Why are you really doing this? He swallows hard. His hand comes up slow and covers mine, which is still on his chest. And he doesn't say anything. He just holds my hand there, pressing it with this squeeze that says everything. That's when I hear it. The click of the lock. He locked the door. And right then, everything I thought I knew about Rafael, about me, about us, it all falls apart. Why lock it? What kind of practice needs a locked door? And what happens when two guys are stuck in a room with tension so thick you can barely breathe? I'm about to find out. And nothing will ever be the same after this. I'm standing frozen at his door, hand still on the knob that won't turn. First thing I think, maybe it's just stuck. But then I look at Rafael sitting on the edge of his bed with that look vulnerable and determined at the same time. And I know. He did it on purpose. Rafael. My voice comes out way deeper than it should. The door's locked. He doesn't look away. Just nods slow, and I can see what that nod costs him. Yeah, I know. 2 words. That's it. But the way he says it, there's weight to it. Makes my stomach flip. It's not threatening. It's not weird. It's exposed. Desperate, maybe. Like someone putting down their last chip. Why'd you lock it? I ask, even though I kinda know the answer already. My heart's hammering so hard he's gotta hear it. He looks down at his hands, interlaces his fingers, then lets go, takes a breath. When he looks back up, there's this raw honesty in his eyes that just undoes me. Because I don't want you running out. He pauses. And I don't want to run either. Silence. The kind that sits heavy on you, takes up all the space, makes you hyper-aware of every heartbeat. I should feel weird about this. Should ask for the key, make some nervous joke, break the tension with a laugh. But I don't do any of that. Because somewhere deep down, I get exactly what he's doing. He's cutting off the exit. For me. For him. For both of us. We don't need to do this, I say, but the words don't have any weight behind them. I'm not gonna run. Yeah? He stands up, takes 2 steps toward me. There's still distance, but it feels smaller than it is, 'cause it kinda looks like you're already working up an excuse. That this was just practice. Doesn't mean anything. He nails it. Because he's right. That's not it, I lie. Sort of. I don't even know anymore. Then what? His voice drops low, almost a whisper, but it's packed with something I can't name. Why are you scared to be here with me? I'm not scared. Bull. He takes another step. Now there's barely any space. I can feel the warmth of him, this smell like soap and just him. My breathing goes all weird. Rafael, I start, but I don't know what comes after his name. I've been trying to understand this for months, he goes on, and I notice his hands shaking for the first time. Months telling myself it's just friendship, that I just respect you, that wanting to be around you constantly is normal, noticing every little thing about you is fine, getting butterflies when you laugh. Every word's a confession, and each one leaves me more stripped bare. When I said I wanted to practice, he laughs, but there's no humor in it. I knew it was bullshit, but it was the only excuse I could actually say out loud. Because asking for what I really want? That's terrifying. And what do you want? I ask, even though I know the answer changes everything. He looks straight at me. Doesn't break eye contact, doesn't hesitate. You. That word just hangs between us. Simple, direct, devastating. And then he closes the space between us. This kiss is nothing like the awkward one on the couch. It's different. There's urgency, yeah, but there's also this realness that completely disarms me. His hand goes to the back of my neck, fingers digging into my hair, and my whole body responds in a way that has nothing to do with helping someone practice. Because this isn't about that anymore. Maybe it never was. I grab his waist, pull him in, and when our bodies meet, he makes this low sound in his throat that completely shatters whatever control I had left. His mouth tastes slightly sweet, like he just had something hot to drink. His breathing's ragged and hot against mine, and every time we pull apart for a second before coming back together, I see that intense, almost desperate look like he's afraid I'm gonna disappear. My brain's screaming 1,000 things. This is insane. You live together. What if this blows up? How do you look at each other in the morning? But my body doesn't care about any of that. My body just knows that this moment, with him, like this, it feels completely right. We keep moving back until he hits the bed. We stop for a second. Look at each other, and I see the same uncertainty in his eyes that I'm feeling. We don't have to, I start. I do, he says, cutting me off. But if you don't want this, I'll unlock the door right now. No judgment, no pressure. This is my escape route. He's handing it to me. I could back away, head back to my room, pretend this never happened. Keep the friendship intact. Keep everything simple and safe. Or I could stay. I do. The words come out before I can overthink it. And I realize as I'm saying it, It's true. This isn't about helping him. Isn't about practice. It's about wanting to be right here, with him. Like this. Rafael's smile is small, relieved, exposed. He pulls my shirt, brings me back in close, and when we kiss this time, there's nothing hesitant about it. His hands are curious but careful. He touches like he's trying to memorize everything, every reaction, every sound I make. And I do the same, finding out how he gasps when I hit that one spot on his neck. How his fingers dig into my shirt when I pull his hair just a little. There are moments where we stop, just look at each other, and laugh. It's nervous, but it's real. Because this is surreal. It's us. The same guys who order pizza at 3 a.m. talking about shows, who share streaming passwords, who bitch about the neighbor's noise. But now we're this too. This new, scary, incredibly intense thing I don't have a word for yet. I don't know what I'm doing, he whispers, forehead against mine, breathing still heavy. Me either, I say. But does it feel right? He nods, and his smile is the most real thing I've seen in forever. We stay there, on the edge of his bed, moving slow, kisses that go from intense to gentle, hands finding places that were off limits before. It's not perfect. There are clumsy moments, bumped noses, times we stop to laugh at something stupid. But it's real. It's us. I lose track of time. Could be minutes, could be hours. Time doesn't matter anymore. Everything's just his skin under my hands, the taste of his mouth, his breathing getting heavier, more intense. At some point, he pulls back. Just slightly. Looks at me with that intensity I'm starting to recognize. I'm not confused about what I feel. He says it like a fact. I don't know what this is exactly, or where we go from here, or what to call it, but I know for sure what I feel for you isn't uncertainty. It's certainty. Those words hit me like a physical thing, because I can finally admit what I've been denying all this time. I'm certain too. Certain that when he walks in the room, I get instantly happier. Certain I've been making excuses to be near him. Certain his laugh is my favorite sound now. Certain that if he was with someone else, really with someone, it would destroy me. I'm certain too. The words come out, and it's like I can finally breathe. The kiss after that is different from all the others. It has promise. It has future. It has all the risk and fear and hope wrapped up into one. And when our clothes start getting in the way instead of covering us up, when his hands get more confident and his breathing gets harder to control, I don't think about practice or helping a friend. I just think about how there's no way to deny what we are to each other. The chemistry between us is undeniable. Every touch creates a reaction. Every kiss makes the connection stronger. Our bodies already understand what our minds are still processing. At one point in the middle of everything, he stops, looks at me with this devastating vulnerability. You gonna regret this tomorrow? The question's heavy with fear. No. No hesitation. You? Not a chance. That's all we need. The rest of the night's just sensations and discoveries blurred together. We break every line we tried to keep. There's no going back from this. When we finally stop, completely exhausted, tangled up in his bed, reality starts seeping back in. But it's a different reality. We're not just friends anymore. It's something else. Something undefined, terrifying, but completely real. He's on his back, one arm around me, fingers mindlessly drawing patterns on my shoulder. I can still feel his heartbeat. It's still racing. So, his voice comes out raspy and tired. What now? The question I've been avoiding all night. The question with no easy answer. Because when we unlock that door, when we have to go back out there and face everything, what are we? How do we explain this? How do we exist in a world that's still pretty hostile to two guys discovering each other like this? I don't know. I admit. But we figure it out together? He pulls me tighter, brings me even closer. Together. He says it like he means it. And right here, right now, with the door still locked and the world still far away, that's enough. But in the back of my mind, something starts worrying at me. Because the night will end. The door will unlock. And we'll have to face what we did here, What's it gonna be like looking him in the eye in the kitchen tomorrow morning? What's it gonna be like sharing the space knowing what just happened? What if we just blew up the best friendship I ever had because of one intense night? No answers for these questions. Not yet. So I just let myself be here, feeling his warmth, his breathing slowing down as he relaxes, this sense of belonging I've never felt before. The locked door was his way of forcing us to admit what we feel. But now that we've said it, now that we've crossed that line, there's no uncrossing it. The real question isn't whether we'll regret this. The question is, how do we live with this? How do two friends who've shared everything now share this new thing without breaking everything? I don't have the answer. And looking at how tight Rafael's holding me, like he's afraid I'll vanish, he doesn't either. The only sound in the room is our breathing slowly matching up. Outside, the world keeps moving. But in here, everything stopped. And part of me wants this moment to last forever. Safe in this bubble, without having to deal with what comes next. But I know morning's coming. The door will unlock, and we'll have to leave this room and figure out what we are when the sun's up. Can we be this honest with each other tomorrow? Does the courage it took him to lock that door extend to the real world? Is what we have strong enough to survive outside these four walls? Only time knows. For now, I push those worries away. I hold him closer, let exhaustion pull me towards sleep, and just let myself feel. Feel the certainty of what we just shared. Feel how exposed we are. Feel the fear of what's coming. And feel, most of all, that no matter how scared I am, I wouldn't change this night for anything, even not knowing what tomorrow brings. I wake up the next morning, and the first thing I feel is the quiet. Not the comfortable quiet of two friends in the same apartment. It's heavy, loaded with everything left unsaid. I open my eyes slowly, and he's already up, sitting on the edge of the bed with his back to me. Shoulders tense, posture rigid, like he's bracing for impact. I fake sleep. Cowardly? Maybe. But I don't have it in me to deal with whatever's next. My head's spinning. Does he regret it? Did we blow up our friendship? Was what I felt real, or just need for someone to want me? I hear him get up, careful footsteps to the bathroom. Shower water starts, and I use that moment to breathe, trying to make sense of the chaos in my head. How do we do normal after that? How do we go back to, hey, morning, coffee, when everything's different? When he comes out of the bathroom, I pretend I'm just checking my phone. He walks right past, grabs his backpack and mumbles, going to class, so quiet I barely hear it. Doesn't even look my way. He leaves, and I'm alone in the apartment with this weight crushing my chest. And then I start spiraling. Maybe it was just curiosity for him, an experiment. He was vulnerable, I was horny, and Did I push him? The thought cuts me like a blade. Did I force something? Did he say yes just because he didn't know how to say no? The next few days are torture. We share the same apartment, but it's like we're in different universes. He's gone early, back late. When we run into each other in the kitchen or living room, it's just a nod, a hey tossed out without looking at each other. Neither of us has the nerve to talk about it, but I see it, the way he keeps away from being alone with me. How he breaks eye contact the second our eyes meet by accident. And worst, I see the confusion all over his face, like he's trying to understand something his brain can't process. One night, I'm in the living room fake watching some show when he gets home. He throws his backpack on the couch, heads straight for the fridge, grabs a beer, cracks it open, and just stares into it like the meaning of life's hiding between the cheese and yogurt. "We gotta talk," he says suddenly. His voice comes out louder than expected, cuts right through the quiet like a lightning strike. My heart jumps. About what? I try to sound normal, but my voice shakes. He closes the fridge slow and looks at me. First time in days our eyes actually meet. You know what? I turn off the TV. The quiet comes back, but it's different now. It's the calm before everything breaks. All right, I say, sitting up on the couch. Let's talk. He comes into the living room but stays standing, beer in hand, searching for words. I'm not gay. The words come out quick, defensive, like he's practiced saying this in the mirror 100 times. Okay, I say, my voice colder than I mean it to be. No, listen. He runs his hand through his hair, frustrated. I'm not gay. Never have been. I've always liked girls, saw myself with girls, but the but just sits there between us. But? I push, my heart pounding so hard he's got to hear it. But I can't stop thinking about that night. His eyes stay on the floor, his face turning red, and it's killing me, because it makes no sense. None of this makes sense. I get up slow from the couch. Maybe it doesn't have to make sense. Yes, it does. His voice goes up, but it's not anger, it's desperation. How do I explain this? How do I explain that we? You don't have to explain anything to anyone, I say, moving closer. Not to me. Not to yourself. He laughs, but there's no humor in it. Easy for you. You already know who you are. You think that was easy for me? My voice cracks. You think I woke up one day and it all clicked? I'm feeling everything rise in my throat. I spent years hating myself, years pretending to be someone else, and when I finally accepted who I am, you know what? Labels matter way less than we think. He finally looked at me for real. His eyes were shining, wet. But it matters to me. Because this changes everything. Changes what? Everything. He gestured, agitated. What my family will think. What my friends will think. What I will think of myself. I don't want to be. Be what? Gay? The word came out harsh. Are you that afraid of being like me? The silence that followed was cutting. That's not it, he murmured, his voice breaking. It's not about you. Then what is it about? He set the beer on the coffee table harder than necessary. It's about fear, man. Fear of losing who I thought I was. Fear of not knowing anything about myself anymore. Fear of admitting that night wasn't just curiosity. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't? He stayed quiet for a time that seemed like an eternity. When he finally spoke, his voice came out in a whisper. No, it wasn't. I took another step. Now we were less than a meter apart. Then what was it? He looked at me, and in that look there was so much. Confusion. Fear. But also there was something else. Something I couldn't name, but that made my chest tighten. I don't know, he admitted. But I can't pretend it didn't matter. I tried. I swear I tried. But I can't. For the first time in days, I felt a glimmer of hope. You don't have to pretend. But I also don't know what to do with this. He shook his head. I don't know how to deal. I don't know if I want to deal. And then came the blow I wasn't expecting. Maybe we shouldn't live together anymore. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What? It's too much confusion. For me. For you. He looked away. Maybe it's better if we have some space. Take a break, I don't know. Run away, you mean? Anger began to bubble up inside me. Is that it? At the first sign of trouble you leave? It's not about running away. Then what is it about? Explain it to me! My voice went up an octave. Because from where I'm standing, you're terrified of the idea of feeling something that goes off your perfect little script. You don't understand. No, I do understand! I exploded. All the emotions of the last few days coming out at once. I understand perfectly. You liked it. You felt something. And now you're scared of what that means. So the solution is to cut me out of your life, as if that would erase what happened. It's not like that. Then tell me how it is. I took another step, invading his space. Tell me, because I'm tired of trying to guess what's going on in your head. He fell silent, breathing heavily, eyes glistening with unshed tears, and it was in that silence that I realized I had crossed a line. I was putting too much pressure on someone who was clearly battling his own demons. I took a step back, taking a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. I'm sorry, I said, my voice softer now. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No, he interrupted, shaking his head. You're right. I am running. We looked at each other, and in that moment, something shifted. The tension was still there, but now there was a mutual acknowledgement, a raw honesty we didn't have before. I just need time, he said, calmer. Not to decide if I feel something, but to figure out what to do with it. And in the meantime, I asked, what do we do? I don't know. He shrugged, exhausted. But I don't want you to disappear from my life. I just need space to think. I nodded, even though it hurt. Okay. He walked back toward the room but stopped at the door. He stood there, back to me, hand on the doorknob. For you. He started, voice wavering. Was that night real? My heart raced. It was. He turned his head slightly, not enough to look at me, but enough for me to see his profile. How much? And that's when I saw the opportunity. The chance to be completely honest, even if it was painful. So much that I'm still feeling it, I admitted. My voice came out shaky but firm. So much that I can't pretend it was just a moment. Because for me, it wasn't. It never was. The silence that followed was different from all the others. It wasn't empty. It was full. Full of everything we weren't saying out loud. He didn't answer. Just went into the room and closed the door. And I stood there, alone in the living room, with the sound of my own breathing and a whirlwind of emotions I didn't know how to process. But there was one thing I knew. This conversation wasn't over. In fact, it had only just begun, and what would come next? Well, that was still unwritten. I went to my room, lay on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. My phone vibrated. A message from him. Thank you for being honest. My heart squeezed. I typed a reply. Erased it. Typed it again. Erased it again. In the end, I sent the simplest thing I could think of. Always. The reply came almost immediately. I know. And then, a second message. That's why this is so hard. I clutched the phone to my chest, feeling a mix of pain and hope. Because for the first time in days, I was sure of one thing. He did feel it. He felt it as much as I did. The difference was that he was still fighting it. And I just hoped that in the end he would stop fighting, that he would allow it to be real. But that, only time would tell. I closed my eyes, exhausted, and let sleep take over. But before I fell asleep completely, I heard it. A soft sound coming from the next room, a muffled sob, and my heart broke a little more. Because loving someone who is fighting against themselves is one of the most painful things there is. You want to help, you want to fix it, you want to make everything okay, but you can't, because his battle is his own. And all you can do is be there. Waiting, hoping, and loving, even when it hurts. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. I stepped out of the room cautiously and found him in the kitchen, making pancakes, our favorite Sunday breakfast. He looked at me when I entered and gave a small, almost shy smile. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," I replied, confused. "I thought we could. I don't know. Try to go back to normal, or at least some version of it." I approached slowly and sat at the counter. That would be nice. He served a stack of pancakes onto my plate. Our fingers brushed when he passed the plate, and we both felt it. That electricity. That recognition. He pulled back quickly, as if he'd been burned. But he didn't say anything, just turned around and continued making his own pancakes. And there, in that mundane moment of a Sunday breakfast, I realized something. We weren't going to resolve this overnight. It was going to be a process. Slow. Painful. Confusing. But also real. And that in some strange way gave me hope. Because when someone runs away, you know it's over. But when someone stays, even if confused, even if scared, it means there's something there. Something worth fighting for. And while we ate in silence, exchanging furtive glances, I allowed myself to believe. Believe that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way. Together. But what I didn't know in that moment was that things were about to get a lot more complicated. Because he walked right up to me, stopped really close, and for a second I thought he was just going to walk right past, grab something from the fridge and go back to his own space. But then, and when the last word left my mouth, when I finished that desperate monologue about fear and desire and all the confusion I was feeling, the silence that settled between us was so heavy I could hear my own heart beating. He was looking at me with an intensity I'd never seen before, his eyes shining with something that looked like a mix of fear and determination. "I'm terrified too," he finally said, his voice coming out lower and raspier than usual. "But you know what? I'm even more terrified of losing you, of letting this moment pass and spending the rest of my life wondering what if." My stomach tied itself in knots, because that was exactly what I had hoped to hear, and, at the same time, the scariest thing in the world. It was a choice. He was choosing us, choosing to step into this uncertainty with me, even without knowing where it would lead us. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because I don't want you to do this just because of what I said. I don't want you to feel pressured or—" "Stop!" He interrupted me, moving closer until our knees touched. "Do you think I would have kissed you that night if I hadn't thought about it beforehand? Do you think that was just some random impulse?" I blinked, confused. "But you said you were drunk. That—" "I was, yeah. But I wasn't that drunk." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous laugh escaping. "Man, I've been thinking about this for months. Since that time we stayed up until 5 in the morning talking about those crazy philosophical theories. Or when you helped me with that project and got so excited explaining things that your eyes lit up. Or all the times you laughed at my stupid jokes and I felt like the funniest person in the world. My chest felt tight, my eyes burning. You felt all that this whole time?" "I did. I do." He held my hand, his fingers interlacing with mine in a way that felt both new and completely natural. And it terrified me because I'd never felt this for a guy before. I'd never looked at someone and felt this urge to know every detail, every thought, every single thing passing through their head. But with you, it was different. "What do you mean, different?" I whispered, barely able to speak. Different, like suddenly everything made sense. Like I'd spent my whole life eating food without salt, and suddenly someone showed me that seasoning existed. He laughed again, more relaxed this time. "Sorry, terrible analogy." "No," I said, laughing too through the tears that had started to fall. "It's perfect. It's exactly that." And then he pulled me close and kissed me again. But this time it was completely different from that first confused, rushed kiss. This time there was certainty. There was choice. There was all the vulnerability we had just shared transformed into something tangible, into lips moving against lips, hands holding faces, breaths mingling. When we pulled apart, I was trembling. Not from fear, but from relief, from liberation. As if I had been carrying a huge weight on my back for months and could finally set it down. "So, what do we do now?" I asked, still holding his face, my thumb tracing his jawline. "We figure it out together," he replied, smiling in that crooked way that always made my stomach flip. "No pressure, no labels, just us, figuring out what this means." "No labels?" I repeated, a pang of insecurity rising. "Does that mean—" "It means I don't know what I am," he interrupted gently. "If I'm bi, if I'm gay, if I'm anything else. But I know one thing for sure. I want you. I want to wake up and see you making that confused face when you try to make coffee in the morning. I want to argue about what show to watch and always give in because you make that little face. I want to know you in every way possible." And it was in that moment, hearing those words, that something shifted inside me. It wasn't just about him wanting me. It was about me finally feeling wanted, desired, valid. For so long I had carried this feeling that it was wrong, that my attraction to men was something that needed to be hidden or minimized. But there, in that moment, with him looking at me like that, I felt seen, completely seen. "I want that too," I said, my voice steadier now. But we need to be honest about things like about our friends, about how we handle this day to day. He nodded, growing more serious. True. Like, I'm not ready to go shouting it from the rooftops, you know? Not out of shame, but because I'm still processing all this. I understand, I said, and it was true. We can keep it private at the start. Figure out what this is before involving other people. But what about our close friends? He asked. Like, the guys who are always coming over? We can tell them when we feel ready, I suggested. No rush, but also no lying if someone asks directly. He thought for a moment, then nodded. Fair enough. And what about us here? In the apartment? What do you mean? Like, are we going to share a room or keep things separate? How does this work, living together and being together? I laughed. Dude, we literally found out we like each other like 15 minutes ago. I think we can take it slow on that part. True, he agreed, laughing too. Sorry, I'm anxious. My brain is already jumping 20 steps ahead. Mine too, I admitted. But maybe we can just let things happen? See what feels natural? See what feels natural, he repeated, as if testing the words. I like that. We sat there for a few more minutes, just enjoying the closeness, the novelty of being able to touch each other without that awkward tension. He ran his fingers through my hair. I traced circles on the back of his hand. They were small gestures, almost insignificant, but heavy with meaning. You know what's funny? He said suddenly. That college friend of yours, Rafael? He asked me last week if I was into you. I pulled back a little to look at him. Seriously? Seriously. Said we had a weird vibe, like too much tension. And I denied it so vehemently I think he actually got offended. He laughed, shaking his head. If I'd known you felt the same. We could have avoided weeks of agony, I finished, smiling. But maybe it had to be this way. Maybe we needed to reach this point of desperation, to be honest. 3 a.m. philosophy, he teased, that sparkle back in his eyes. It's the best time for philosophy, I shot back. He pulled me back close, kissing me again, but this time slower, more exploratory. It was different when you knew you had permission, when it wasn't just a stolen moment, but something you both chose. His hands found my face, my waist, and I felt every touch like it was electric. When we broke apart, we were both breathless, goofy smiles plastered on our faces. So, officially, he said, we're not just 2 roommates who accidentally kissed once anymore? Officially, I replied, we're 2 idiots who took way too long to admit what they were feeling. I accept that label, he said, laughing. And there, in the early hours, everything changed. Not because someone declared eternal love or made impossible promises, but because 2 human beings chose vulnerability over fear, chose possibility over safety, chose each other. We stayed up until the sun started to rise, talking about everything and nothing, about fears and hopes, about what we wanted and what scared us. And for the first time in months, I felt at peace, like I finally had permission to be exactly who I was. When we finally went to sleep, each in our own room because we were still navigating how this new dynamic was going to work, I lay there staring at the ceiling with a smile on my face. Everything was uncertain. We didn't know what we were, where this was going, how people would react. But for the first time, the uncertainty didn't scare me, because we were going to figure it out together. I thought that conversation, that night of vulnerability and choice, had solved everything. That we had finally reached a place of clarity where we could just be happy and figure things out in our own time. We had agreed to keep it private, not to complicate things by involving other people before we even understood what was happening ourselves. It was a simple, sensible plan. But life, as always, had other plans. 3 days later, I was in his room. We were watching some random show when his phone vibrated on the coffee table. He picked it up, looked at the screen, and I saw the expression on his face change completely. The relaxed smile vanished, replaced by something between surprise and panic. "What is it?" I asked, sitting up straighter. He showed me the screen. It was a message from his ex-girlfriend, Amanda. the one who had broken up with him 6 months ago but still kept in sporadic contact. The message was simple, direct. Heard some weird rumors. Are you seeing someone? My stomach dropped. How would anyone know? He shook his head, rubbing his face with his hand. I don't know. We were so careful. We didn't change anything in our routine, didn't. The party, I said suddenly, remembering. 2 days ago, at Marcos's party, we stood in a corner talking all night. And when you went to get drinks, that girl, Julia, made a comment like, "You guys are so cute together." At the time, I laughed and changed the subject, but maybe she talked to someone, he finished, going pale. And if it got to Amanda, it's going to get to everyone. The panic I had managed to keep at bay since that night came back in full force. What do we do? He looked at me, then at the phone, then back at me. And in his expression, I saw the same fear I was feeling, but also something else. Determination. We answer, he said simply, but not with lies. And then, just when I thought we had finally found a rhythm, when I thought the worst was over, my phone vibrated on the kitchen table. I was making coffee, he was on the couch answering work emails. Normal couple life. Or at least that's what I wanted to believe. I looked at the screen. A message from Mariana, my ex-girlfriend. Saw you're living with someone now. Is it serious? My stomach turned, not because I still had feelings for her. That had ended months ago. But because that simple message represented everything I feared. The outside world, the questions, the judgments, people wanting to know, wanting to understand, wanting to label what we had. He noticed my expression. Everything okay? It's Mariana. She's asking about us. I saw panic flash across his face. It was quick, but I saw it. That flicker of fear that said people will know. That automatic reflex to hide, to retreat back to the safety of the closet. What did you tell her? Nothing yet. It just came in. He stayed quiet. Too long. And in that silence, I felt the ground start to shake beneath my feet. Maybe it's better not to go into details, he finally said. Like, you don't need to explain everything, you know? You don't need to explain everything. Translation, lie, omit, hide. So what do I say then? That we're roommates? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He ran his hand through his hair. That gesture I knew so well. The one he made when he was nervous, when he wanted to escape a difficult conversation. It's just, she'll mention it to other people. You know how it is. And then the questions will start. My family, my work friends, everyone will want to know. And is that a problem? It's not that simple. It should be. But I knew it wasn't. Because I had been through it too. That terror that people will look at you differently. That your mother will cry, that your childhood friends will disappear. That everything you've built will crumble because you dared to be honest. But I had already walked through that fire. And he was still on the edge, staring at the flames. In the days that followed, the tension grew. He started becoming more distant when we went out. At the market, the restaurant, the gym, as if he were afraid someone would notice, as if there were a neon sign above our heads saying, "Gay couple here." One night, we were at a bar with some of his friends. Friends I didn't know well yet. The conversation was flowing, cold beer, easy laughter, until one of them, Rodrigo, asked an innocent question. "So, how long have you two been living together?" Silence. I looked at him, waiting for him to say something, anything that wasn't a lie. "About 2 months," he replied. "Saving on rent, you know how it is." Saving on rent, as if I were just a financial convenience. I laughed, but it wasn't funny at all. In the Uber back home, neither of us spoke. I looked out the window, feeling that horrible sensation of being erased, of being a secret, of not mattering enough to be real. "You're mad," he said when we entered the apartment. Perceptive. Look, I know it was awkward, but what? Are you ashamed of me? It's not that. Then what is it? Because from here, it looks exactly like that. He leaned against the wall, exhausted. I'm scared, okay? I'm scared of what they'll think, of what they'll say, of how this will change the way people see me. What about me? My voice came out louder than I intended. Do you think I wasn't scared? Do you think it was easy for me? I lost friends. I had to hear shit from my own family. But you know what I learned? That people who abandon you for being honest were never truly yours to begin with. It's easy for you to say that. You've already gone through all this. Exactly. I have gone through it. And I survived. And I'm here. But I'm not going back to that place. I won't be your dirty secret. That's not how I see you. Then how do you see me? Because your actions are saying something very different. The argument continued into the early morning. Him saying he needed time. Me saying that time wouldn't change anything if he didn't have courage. Until finally, exhausted, we went to sleep. Each to his own side of the bed. That invisible abyss growing between us. I thought about breaking up. Seriously. I thought maybe it would be easier. That maybe he needed to take this journey alone. That I shouldn't have to wait for someone to reach a place where I already was. But then I'd remember. Remember how he looked at me when we were alone. How he held my hand while he slept. All the times he had been brave, even when scared. And I asked myself, how much time should I give? How much of myself can I sacrifice waiting for him to get there? A few tense days passed. Superficial conversations, forced politeness. Until one Thursday night he came home earlier than usual. I need to tell you something. My heart raced. Here it comes. He's going to break up. He's going to say he can't do it. That it's too hard. Mariana texted me, he said. Wanted to grab coffee. Talk. Ah, so that was it. His ex-girlfriend wanting to talk. The universe testing how far he was willing to go. And are you going? I already went. It was this afternoon. I didn't know whether to be mad that he hadn't told me sooner or curious about what had happened. She asked about you, he continued. Said she'd heard some rumors. That people were saying I was living with a guy. Wanted to know if it was true. And what did you say? He took a deep breath. And in that moment, I knew everything depended on the next sentence. I said yes, that I am seeing someone, and that someone is you. I couldn't speak, because that was more than I expected. It wasn't, I'm seeing someone, or, it's complicated. It was direct, it was honest, it was real. She was surprised, he continued. Kind of speechless. But you know what was funny? After the initial shock, she was cool about it. Said she just wanted to make sure I was okay, that I was happy. And I said yes. That for the first time in a long time, I am. My throat tightened. I know I've been an idiot, he said. I've been letting fear control everything. But when she asked, when the moment of truth came, I couldn't lie. I couldn't pretend that you're just my roommate or my friend, because you're not. You are the person I choose every day. And if that scares some people, that's their problem. I didn't cry. Almost. But I didn't cry. Do you have any idea how long I've waited to hear that? He smiled. That crooked smile that completely disarmed me. Sorry it took so long. And then he kissed me. And it was different. Because this time there was no fear. There was no shame. There was just the two of us. Real. True. Together. In the following days, things started to change. Slowly. But they changed. He told his brother. Then his best friend. Every conversation was hard. Every revelation cost something. But he kept doing it. And you know what we discovered? That most people didn't care as much as he imagined. Sure, some people got weird. Some coworkers started avoiding him. Some family members made faces. But there were many more people who just said, "Cool, man. Happy for you." His brother, who he swore would freak out, just shrugged and said, "I kinda already figured. You guys aren't as subtle as you think." His best friend cried, but tears of happiness. She said she'd never seen him so light. And that was what changed everything. Seeing that the monster in his head was much bigger than the real monster. That yes, some people would judge. But the ones who mattered, the ones who really loved him, just wanted him to be happy. One night, lying in bed, he said, "You know what's craziest? I spent my whole life afraid of losing people. if they knew who I really am. And now I realize I never truly had them, because they loved a version of me that didn't exist. And now? Now I have fewer people, but the ones who stayed are real. And I have you. You always had me. I know. Sorry it took me so long to understand that. But the journey wasn't over yet. Because it's one thing to tell close ones. It's another thing to live it publicly. To post photos together. To hold hands on the street. To kiss in a restaurant without looking around to see if anyone is watching. And that part? We were still learning that part. Because coming out isn't a moment. It's a million little moments. It's every time you decide to be true instead of safe. It's every time you choose love instead of fear. And we were in that choice together. Every day. One step at a time. But there was still a question neither of us had answered. A question that hovered over everything, whispering in the quiet moments, waiting for its time to be faced. What did this mean? Not just for us, but for who each of us was, for how we saw ourselves, for how the world saw us, because we were together. That was clear now. But what exactly were we? And who did that make us? Those answers. Well, those were still to come. After that comment in front of everyone, everything changed. It wasn't the dramatic change I imagined, full of tension and judgmental looks. It was something more subtle and, at the same time, deeper. We went back to the apartment that night, and he was quiet, processing. I was too. We had crossed an invisible line, and now there was no turning back. While he was in the shower, I stayed in the living room thinking about everything that had happened. Since that first day, when he walked into my apartment with that confident smile and that energy that filled the whole space. I had spent years convincing myself that it was better to be alone, that it was safer not to let anyone in. And then he showed up, with all that uncomplicated masculinity and genuine curiosity, and tore down all my defenses without even trying. What impressed me most that night, after dinner with friends, was the way he handled everything. He didn't pretend nothing had happened, didn't make a scene, didn't try to backtrack. He just accepted it, like he was processing an important new piece of information and wanted to understand it properly before reacting. When he came out of the bathroom, he came to sit next to me on the couch. We sat there in silence for a few minutes, that comfortable silence we had already developed, until he spoke, with that calm voice I had learned to recognize when he was being completely honest. Like, subscribe to the channel, and share your own story in the comments. We're building a community here of people who believe that authenticity is worth more than approval, that love is worth more than convenience, that living for real is worth more than surviving a lie. I am that office boy who was afraid to admit who he was. But today, I am the man who chose the truth. And you? Who do you choose to be? See you next time. I don't know what I am, man. He looked at his own hands, as if searching for answers there. My whole life I thought I knew. I dated girls, hooked up with girls. It was always natural. And then you show up and everything I thought I knew about myself gets confused. I wanted to say something, but he continued. And you know what's craziest? I'm not feeling confused right now. I'm feeling, I don't know, more me than ever. It's like all those certainties I had before were more fragile than I thought. And this here, he gestured between the two of us, is more solid than anything I've ever felt before. My heart was beating so fast I was sure he could hear it, because that was exactly what I felt too. That feeling that, for the first time in my life, I was being completely authentic. I wasn't hiding anything. I wasn't pretending to be someone I wasn't. I wasn't measuring every word before speaking. You don't need to know what you are, I said. Labels are useful sometimes, but they can also be a prison. What matters is how you feel, what's true for you. He smiled, that crooked smile that always disarms me. Roommate philosophy? Philosophy of someone who spent way too much time worrying about what others would think, I replied, and who is learning to stop doing that. The conversation evolved, getting deeper. We talked about everything, about his girlfriends, about the guys I'd been with before, about how his family would react if they knew, about how I came out to my parents years ago. He asked questions, lots of questions, and I answered with an honesty I rarely shared with anyone. Sometime in the early hours, when we were already half dazed with sleep but didn't want the conversation to end, he asked, "That day, when you locked the door, did you know something was going to happen?" I thought before answering. I knew something needed to happen. The tension was getting unbearable. But I didn't know exactly what. I just knew we needed a safe space, with no chance of interruption, to explore what was happening between us. "And weren't you afraid?" I was terrified, I admitted. But more than that, I was tired of running. Tired of feeling that attraction and not being able to do anything about it. Tired of seeing you walking around the apartment shirtless and having to look away. The locked door was my way of saying, "This is a safe space. You can be whoever you want to be, and so can I." He stayed quiet for a while, processing. Then he said, "Best decision we ever made." "Which one? Locking the door?" "That. But also not running away. Because it would have been so easy, right? I could have gotten uncomfortable, made an excuse, looked for another place to live. You could have backtracked, pretended nothing happened, put that just a roommate mask back on. But we didn't do that." He was right. And in that moment, looking at him there on the sofa, his eyes shining even though they were tired, I realized how much we had grown in those weeks. It wasn't just about physical attraction or discovering a new sexual orientation. It was about courage, about being vulnerable, about trusting someone enough to show who you really are, without filters, without defenses. The following weeks were different. We didn't need to pretend anymore in front of others. The friends who had been at the dinner obviously talked amongst themselves, but when they saw us, they were just cool. Some made silly jokes, but always with affection, and I realized that a lot of the fear I had was in my own head. People in general cared a lot less than I imagined. What really changed was inside the apartment. Before, there was always that tension, that electricity in the air. Now there was intimacy. Real intimacy. The kind that comes from knowing someone deeply. We had inside jokes that no one else understood. We had routines that formed naturally. He made coffee in the morning. I cooked at night. He picked the movie. I picked the snacks. And there were the small moments, the ones no one sees but mean everything. His hand in my hair while we watched TV. The way he leaned into me when passing through the kitchen, just because. The way he talked about the future, and I was always included in those plans. When we go traveling in the summer, that new restaurant we need to check out. You're going to love seeing my hometown. One day we were talking about trips, planning a beach getaway for the next vacation, when he stopped mid-sentence and looked at me with a strange expression. "What?" I asked. "Nothing. It's just, I'm planning the future, and you're in all the plans. Like, automatically. I don't even have to think about it." My chest tightened, but it was a good feeling. Is that bad? No, it's just different. It's like my brain had already accepted all this before I even fully processed it. You know when you make a decision without realizing you made it? I knew exactly, because that's how I felt too. At some point, without a clear milestone, without a definitive conversation, we had become, I don't know, a couple? Partners? Two people who chose to be together and build something? Labels were still complicated for him. Sometimes he'd say my boyfriend sort of experimentally, testing how it sounded. Other times he'd just say him when talking about me, without defining exactly what I was. And that was okay, because I didn't need a specific label. I just needed what we had, that genuine connection, that safe space we had created together. One night, about 2 months after that conversation on the sofa, we were lying in his bed. Or was it mine? It didn't matter anymore. We alternated, and he said something I'll never forget. I don't need to know what I am. I just know that I'm yours. It was so simple, so direct, so true that I couldn't answer. I just pulled him closer, felt his weight against me. That feeling of wholeness I had never experienced before with anyone. "And you are mine," I finally said. "I am," He didn't hesitate for a second. It was in that moment that I fully understood what had happened between us. It wasn't about him discovering he was gay, or bi, or any other label. It was about two human beings who found each other at the right moment, when both were ready to be real. He had given me permission to be authentically me, without fear, without shame. And I had given him the freedom to explore who he really was, without pressure, without judgment. That practice that had started everything, that was it. It was the permission to explore, to experiment, to discover without the fear of getting it wrong. It was the recognition that attraction and connection don't follow rigid rules. They don't fit into neat little boxes. Life is more complex and more beautiful than that. Looking back now, I see how that decision to lock the door changed everything. Not just because it allowed us to connect physically, but because it created a space of total vulnerability. There, in that room, with no possibility of escape or interruption, we had to be honest. Honest about what we wanted, about what we felt, about who we were. And that honesty spread to all other areas of our lives. I stopped hiding at work, stopped being the discreet gay guy who didn't bother anyone. I started living openly, without apologizing for who I was, and him. He learned that his masculinity wasn't fragile, that he could be the sports guy, the beer with the boys guy, the football talk guy, and still be with me. That one thing didn't cancel out the other. People noticed the change in me. Coworkers commented that I seemed lighter, happier. My mom called one day and said, "Son, did something good happen? Your voice sounds different." And it had, right? Everything had happened. Over time, he became more comfortable. He started holding my hand when we went out, something that made him tense at first. He posted a photo of us on Instagram with a caption with no context, and didn't care about the curious comments. He went to meet my parents, and they loved him. My mom wouldn't stop saying how polite and funny he was. Today, when I wake up and see him next to me, I still don't completely believe it. Not because of some fairy tale happiness, but because of the simplicity of it all. It's so easy being with him. No drama, no games, no masks. It's just the two of us, being exactly who we are, together. He still lives here, or I live here with him, depending on how you see it. We've already talked about looking for a bigger place, just ours. But for now, this apartment with the locking door, where it all began, is perfect. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this story resonated with you. And I want you to know that you are not alone. If you're questioning your identity, if you're feeling an attraction you don't know how to process, if you're afraid of being judged, you are not alone. Your journey is valid, your feelings are real, and you deserve to live authentically. The bravest thing you can do is be vulnerable. It's taking off the masks and allowing someone to see you for real. It is scary, yes, but it's also liberating in a way you can't imagine until you experience it. For me and him, everything changed in that moment when we chose not to run away. We chose to face the attraction, the curiosity, the fear, everything together. And it was the best choice we ever made. Because in the end, what I discovered is that love, real, true, deep love, isn't about gender. It's about connection, about finding someone who sees you completely and still chooses to stay. Someone with whom you can be vulnerable without fear. Someone who accepts you not in spite of who you are, but exactly because of it. And if you're looking for that too, I hope you find it. I hope you have the courage to lock that metaphorical door and explore who you really are. I hope you find someone who makes you feel whole, authentic, free, because everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves to live without masks. Everyone deserves to love and be loved exactly as they are. If this story touched you in some way, leave a comment sharing your experience. We grow by sharing these stories, realizing that we are not alone on this journey. And if you want more stories like this, real stories about self-discovery and acceptance, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Life is too short to live hidden. Be who you are, love who you want to love, and never apologize for it. That locked door was the beginning of everything for us. And you know what? It was the best decision we ever made. The decision not to run away, to explore, to be true. Because when you choose authenticity, when you choose the courage to be vulnerable, everything transforms. And today, when I look at him and see that smile, the same one that won me over on the first day, I know I am